All right, hey Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 228 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And today we're going to be doing a solo episode, and I want to talk about these two jobs that I had early on in my career, and this idea of how people can see things in you, but you can't really see it in yourself, and you might at the moment think that you had a bad job or a bad deal or it was a waste of time, and then in retrospect you reflect on it and you're like, yo, I really learned a lot, and those things and those experiences shaped and really play a part of who you are today. So before we get into that, because these two stories are pretty related, so it's not going to take too long, I want to start this off by giving you guys a little bit of an update on me. And I also want to remind you of some things. So first things first, if you enjoy this episode, which I hope you guys do, please make sure that you're sharing it on social. We are Dreams and Drive across the board on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and you can use the hashtag Dreams and Drive when sharing as well. And thanks to everybody who has been supporting the show. I'm starting to mention this more because people ask me about it all the time. We do have a Patreon community, so if you want to have a monthly contribution to the show, you can definitely do that. I want to shout out our latest Patreon member, and that is Adronix. I hope I'm saying it right. I'm probably saying it wrong. I really appreciate getting those Patreon notifications. So if you want to be part of the Dreams and Drive community and support monetarily, you can just go to dreamsanddrive.com/donate. That's dreamsanddrive.com/donate. And remember, if you want to be part of our weekly newsletter, The Keys, go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening to the show so that you get notifications every time we have a new episode. So let me give you guys a quick update on me. So if you remember, a few weeks ago, I talked about how I was the event producer for Nikayla Matthews-Okome's first live show, Side Hustle Pro Live. That happened in October in Washington, D.C. And it was a project that we embarked on, I want to say, in the early summer. And it was my first time producing an event to that scale for someone else. And I remember Nikayla basically telling me, I'm going to hire you, Rana. I know you can do this. And in the beginning, I was a little bit nervous, but as we went on through the journey, I realized, I really can do this. And that experience gave me so much confidence and so much desire to really want to keep pushing myself when it came to opportunities. So I am excited to announce that I have signed my second live show production client. I'm not going to say who it is as of yet, but it's going to be a live show in 2020. And I'm super excited because this podcast is one that I personally love, I personally listen to, and this person is somebody who's very dear to me. And knowing that people in my corner really believe in me and want me to help them bring their stories to life is a reminder that things are going to come together. So to be truthful with you guys, I have for the past few months really been thinking really hard about who is Rana, what is Dreams and Drive, what am I building, what's the real purpose, is it making sense that I'm producing episodes every week? my episode downloads have kind of just been staying the same. So it's also that idea of, is being consistent always the most effective thing, right? It's putting out the same thing every week, the same time, doing things the same way, going to help me grow. And I realized that I have to take a step back. If we think about the GPS analogy, sometimes you have to pause the GPS and then say reroute, or then press the recalibrate button, or whatever that is. So it's something that I've been thinking about and just trying to think about what are the main things that I love with Dreams and Drive. So I really love sharing people's success stories with you all. And I really love just sharing stories overall and showing how you can do it in your own life. And I want people to feel inspired that they can put their own dreams into drive and figure out the how and figure out the strategy, but also just figure out the keys to success that we all need. So that's something that I know I love. I'm a storyteller, but I've realized maybe with my struggle in figuring out how to monetize is maybe I'm monetizing the wrong thing. And I also have the skill strength of helping other people tell their stories. And there are a lot of different ways to tell one story. And even with Nikayla of Side Hustle Pro, I was able to bring this vision, bring this story that she had and her own story to life, to stage, and her audience was able to connect with it. So I think that's the part of the journey that I'm on now, is figuring out what the other avenues to storytelling are for Dreams and Drive and for me personally. So stay tuned for that. I'll be sure to keep you guys updated because the podcast may be a vehicle by which I'm able to help people put their own stories into motion. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so let's get into this story. I didn't know what to call this episode. I was going to call it Bad Job, Great Experience, though. There's a lot of things that we could title this, but I want to just tell you guys about two experiences that I had early on in my career, right after college, that have really stayed with me. And it's also interesting because I don't often talk about these two things a lot. So the first is me being a junior publicist / content blog writer for this publicist based in New Jersey. So I actually met her at a public relations event before I graduated from Princeton. I remember specifically because I remember going to New York for the event and actually losing my grandmother's silver bangle that I loved on the subway there because I just remember that. So anyway, so I met her at this event and I told her I was a writer and she's like, let's stay in touch. So, people tell me, let's stay in touch. It's definitely something that I definitely do. So I stayed in touch with her. And after graduation, she gave me like this freelance writing job where I got a byline in Hyper magazine. I did a bio or advertorial for one of the companies that she was working with. And her niche was extension brands. So she worked with a lot of wig clients, a lot of clients with hair extensions. And this was my first time realizing that there was such a niche industry out there for hair and wig brands. Because all through college, I was natural. I wasn't really doing extensions or anything beyond braids. So this was my first time realizing, wow, there's this big, big world out there and it's going to only get bigger. So I was writing blog content for her clients, and it was also interesting because she was one of the first people that I met that was an entrepreneur and doing her own thing. So she had this public relations company that she kind of built from the ground up. And she told me her fiance at the time really helped her. And she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And I think at that time, I didn't really know what to do with the offer that she gave me. And maybe it wasn't the best circumstance. I don't really know how to describe it now, but I'm gonna tell you about the offer. So one day she invites me to her house and she had her fiance make me these really nice cocktails, and I just love their whole aura. Like, she was goals in my head. She was in her mid to late 20s. She was doing her thing, and she was like, Raina, how much money do you want to make? And at that point, I didn't know how to answer her. I had started my fellowship at the Vera Institute of Justice. So I was kind of making money. It wasn't a lot of money. It was fellowship money. So I just said, $32,000 is how much money I want to make. And in retrospect, that's nothing. And she looked at me like, huh? Like, she wanted me to say a bigger number, but she never told me that. But in retrospect, I know she probably was looking at me crazy because she's like, this girl is not money oriented. She doesn't want to make a lot of money. But anyway, she gave me this proposition that she wanted me to help her with her sales and business development. So basically, I would be responsible for helping her get new clients, and I would get a commission off of the retainer that she was able to sign the client for. So she really thought I was good. I was good at networking. She saw me in the way that I was able to write and communicate, and she wanted me to kind of be her salesperson. Now, I accepted this and I really had no idea what went into it. And it's funny now looking back at just my tactics, reaching out to people. So of course, me being me, the first people that I reached out to was my network. And this is how we're going to get to the second job that I had that's a little bit random. I was supposed to reach out to my network, and I just was a little bit nervous about selling a product that I couldn't vouch for. So although I had worked with her on the blog writing side and all that stuff for her clients, and she was bringing me in and that stuff, like, I still didn't know if she was good at the publicity stuff. So that was a little bit of my hesitation. And remember, I'm just coming out of college. I didn't know anything about sales. Like, I just was just a nervous wreck. But it's interesting that she saw that, hey, I could probably really use this girl And at that point, I don't think I was yet developed to really deliver. Now, if I had that job and that commission, because it was really kind of crazy how much she was going to pay me, I probably would have excelled, but it just wasn't my time yet. It wasn't my time yet, but I needed to have the experience because the exposure was so important. She exposed me to the hair and beauty industry. I went to the Korean warehouse, and I went to the warehouse where the wigs were fulfilled out here in New Jersey. I met their marketing manager. We got to talk about content. It made me realize that there are ways to have access to communities that you don't think you have, but you have to be smart about it and you have to figure out like what your specialty is. She was somebody very early on who showed me that you don't necessarily have to know everything, but you have to know one thing very well, and you can find clients who will pay you to deliver on this said thing. Like at that time, in 2013, YouTube bloggers are very big, and people wanted to get these bloggers talking about their hair. And so she specialized in building a network of all these YouTubers, and she would send them hair, and they would do the hair reviews and link back to the site. And that helped her clients, and that helped her clout in the beginning. And thinking about it now, I think it's a principle that I use in my own business. It's like, how can I leverage what I'm already good at, what I already know, and create a network that people need to rely on me on to access? It was very smart of her to do at that point when YouTubers were so early, right? And I think watching her do it definitely impacted me and helped me think about how to be innovative when it came to leveraging connections and being a connector. And I'm happy that she asked me that question, how much money do you want to make? Because it was one that I didn't know how to answer now. But as I'm more seasoned and older in my career, and although it's still a little bit not scary, but I still sometimes don't know how to answer it, or I have a hard time articulating my relationship with money because I don't think I'm very money oriented, but it's very important when building a business, because if you're not profitable or whatever, you're not really building a business. I just really admire her hustle, because early when you're out of college, when you think that you're supposed to have this big time job and you don't get it, she was really one of those people who showed me that you could be self-made. You could be self-made. She was a hustler, and I wanted to be a hustler too. And she also showed me that you could aspire to have a better way of life or live differently. Like, she was from Brooklyn, I want to say, and she told me a little bit about her story and growing up and like meeting her fiance and then moving out to Jersey and just living this different life. I used to love going to her house for meetings. She gave me my first designer bag, although it was a hand-me-down. Like, I didn't really care. I still rock that now. I think that it's just important to have exposures to different ways of life, because you really, really never know the seeds that will be planted in you, right? Just from that experience. And just having those early bylines, knowing how to work different people's back ends on their websites and doing blog content that if I search for it, I probably can still find it, because the wig company is one that, is very popular. I'm just proud of that early portfolio work. And although I wasn't making a lot of money, I really was not getting paid. It was probably like $35 an article, but I was so hyped, so souped to have, my name out there on the internet, that I thought that was a lot. Although now it really isn't, but it's just having those experiences and those early opportunities that you just have to say yes to. And even if you don't know how it's going to pan out, just trust that it's going to make sense. So this leads me to the second job that I had that was very short-lived, but I don't really talk about it. So there's going to be a gap in this story, because I honestly don't remember how I was introduced to this company originally. It might have just been like through the Princeton Career Network when I was pitching. But basically, so with this job, with me being a junior publicist and trying to get the commission if I was able to close a deal, I was pitching, I want to say, to the Princeton community, and somehow, some way, this beauty startup run by Princeton alum reached out to me because they were looking for a publisher, somebody who could help their brand grow. So I had this meeting with them in Newark, and I don't know what I was presenting. They asked me a lot of questions, and they just wanted to know more about the publicist and the company, and I was doing my best. And so then they were like, we don't know if this is going to be the best fit for us, but we like you. We like you, and we want you to work with us. And we're going to be the next big beauty startup. And I was like, huh? At this point, I was realizing that people were seeing things in me, but I wasn't really sure how to respond to it. So I still had a full-time job. I was working as, a junior publicist, writer for this public relations company. How was I going to do this? Like, how was I going to be like an intern or whatever they wanted me to be for the next big beauty marketing company? So I said yes. I really didn't know how that was going to pan out. And I remember one day, one of the co-founders dropped off a big box of postcards at my doorstep and basically told me that she wanted me to go to all the colleges in the Northern Jersey area and flyer and pass out these postcards and get people excited about the beauty startup. And I just laughed because I took the cards, but I'm like, what did I get myself into? This is just crazy. The concept was one that I didn't really understand. It has to do with beauty technology and personalization. So because I was so early into the beauty industry, I wasn't necessarily the target customer, but it was a cool concept, I guess, right? So I said I would do it. I think I probably lied about actually doing it. But then we had a big all-day meeting. And I remember it being the co-founders and this other woman who also was a Princeton alum. And I remember being in this all-day discovery meeting. And it was supposed to kind of be like a competitive analysis of other beauty startups. And I'll give you a little bit more information about the company. It was like a subscription model. So we were looking at other subscription models. And this was my first time now. And I'm getting into why it's so relevant, although I would say it's a job that I don't really talk about. But thinking about it now, it really did help me a lot. This was probably the most in-depth competitive analysis I've ever witnessed to. Basically, this was probably the most in-depth competitive analysis that I ever saw. I didn't even really know what a competitive analysis was until that point. So here I am, this bright-eyed, recently graduated from college student of the business. We had this all-day meeting doing a competitive analysis of all the other beauty subscription boxes, their positive, their negatives, their strengths, their weaknesses, all these things, the opportunities, who their founders were, what made each company good. And I'm like, yo, these people really love what they're doing. They really were so invested in the brand and really figuring it out. And then I liked the competitive analysis. And here's another little thing that's interesting. One of the brands that we looked at was Curlbox. And one of the founders we looked at was Myleik. Myleik Teal, if you guys know Myleik, you probably listen to her podcast. If you listen to this podcast and my Torture podcast. And it's interesting because they didn't necessarily have the nicest things to say about Myleik, or they definitely were just talking about how she's very strong-willed when it comes to her brand. And that made me want to go and explore, who is this Myleik person? So I remember going to her Instagram and being like, she's pretty dope. I'm going to follow her. So that's how I started following Myleik, because of sitting in this all-day competitive analysis for this other brand. And, realizing that just because someone says you shouldn't like somebody, or just because someone has an opinion about someone, you should always make your own opinion based upon the facts that you find for yourself. So that's something that I realize, especially in the business industry, especially as you're in your career. People will have so many things to tell you, but remember, people's opinions are always jaded by their own experiences and their own perspectives. So that was a major thing I learned. Don't take what people tell you as the truth and the only truth. Sometimes you have to go out there and make your own truth for things. And although they didn't end up becoming a client for the other company I was working with, I don't even know how it had all the time. I was writing for like Huffington Post. I was trying to build my personal blog. I had this full-time job. My first year out of college, I was just doing the most. But in the telling of my story, I often don't say these two little gigs because they didn't really last the longest. And I mean, the first gig, it was very off and on for the next few years. I got a lot of clients. I got a lot of like freelance work piecemeal every month or so from that client. I really do appreciate it. And it's a little sad that like we don't necessarily talk now, but I really do appreciate all that I learned from her. And even this beauty subscription tech company that I worked with for probably like maybe 2 months or whatever, just seeing how tenacious, how committed they were to making this work was really, really inspiring to me. The reason why I'm sharing this is because I think that we all have to realize that every single stop along the journey is important. And sometimes in telling our stories, we don't often say every stop, but just know that even the ones that you forget about, or even the ones that you may deem as bad or not really resulting in anything. Like I never did get that. I never closed the deal, right? For this client and made a lot of money. I never, the company ended up dissolving I want to say maybe a year later. I had to step back. I had to be honest about my commitment and my interest, but it still mattered because there's so many things I learned, like just competitive analysis. That was my first introduction to it. The business behind business. Seeing a woman who was in her 20s making money, living a very nice life. Those were all things that were part of my story and maybe were things that I had to go through in order to understand and to learn and to really step into who I am today. Like now, connections and relationship building is something I'm very good at. Now, competitive analysis is something that I know is crucial for any idea. You got to see what's out there. You got to have a lay of the land. All those things are so important. And I hope you guys can relate with this story. There's probably things in your own journey that you kind of discredit, or you say like, hey, I used to work at McDonald's for 2 days. I know somebody who worked at McDonald's, and he said that working at McDonald's for however long he worked really taught him the importance of processes and teamwork and leadership. So even if you don't have the dream job, even if you're not where you want to be in life, you got to look at everything you're doing right now. Look at the experiences that are coming from that. Look at what you're learning. How are you becoming better as a person? How are you learning about the world? How are you elevating? How are you there's so many things that we learn along the journey that sometimes the end point really doesn't matter. Sometimes it's just getting to where we want to go. That is the real blessing. And I just want all you dream drivers out there who are out here hustling. It's the end of the year. You're thinking about 2020. You may even be reflecting upon all the past 12 months, right? Don't be hard on yourself if you feel like you didn't reach that big goal. Think about all the things you did do, though, and all the people that you met, and all the experiences you had, and all the times where you had to really rely on yourself, and you had to make decisions, and you had to just be. Because I think it's in the being that we are, and that we see what we're capable of. And sometimes the goals change depending upon the experience. And it's interesting because I watched Queen and Slim this past weekend, and in the movie they talked about this idea of destiny, right? Like, are things supposed to be the way they're supposed to be? And I think sometimes we can spend a lot of times wondering, like, what if? But sometimes you just gotta be in the moment and say what's next. So I hope this gives you guys some kind of encouragement. I want to share with you this story because I know that you have this own story in your own life. I know there are things that you may think doesn't matter, but it does. It definitely does. All right, so if you love this story time edition of Dreams and Drive, if you felt like there were some lessons in here that you want to share with somebody else in your life or your community, please share this. We are Dreams and Drive across the board on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and you can use the hashtag Dreams and Drive when sharing as well. If you want to be part of our Dreams and Drive newsletter, the community, the keys, it goes out once a week. Just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. And shout out to everybody who is joining our Patreon community. If you want to donate monetarily to Dreams and Drive and help keep the lights on or just show your monthly support, you can go to dreamsanddrive.com/donate. I'm going to be mentioning this more because I feel like, it's never people out there want to help you. Sometimes you just got to tell them how they can help you. I'm also thinking about bringing some Dreams and Drive merchandise back. I'll let you guys know about that if we do have a new drop soon. I'm completely sold out, and I get a lot of people who are asking me, hey, I want to have a Dreams and Drive sweatshirt. Hey, I want a Dreams and Drive tee. Can you make something? Can you make it available? So definitely be on the lookout for that because I want to get some merch popping for y'all. And if you ever have ideas or suggestions for these solo episodes, you want me to talk about a topic, or if you have a question you want me to discuss, you can always hit me up on Instagram, or you can send me an email, Rana@dreamsanddrive. And remember, wherever you're listening, please make sure that you are subscribed. Whether you're listening in on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, any of the audio apps, hit that subscribe button and make sure that you also are leaving a review, especially if you're listening in on Apple Podcasts. Those reviews really do matter a lot, and it helps us reach other people who may not know about the show. All right, and our latest review is coming from First Class Dama, and she says encouragement. She gave it 5 stars. She says, I enjoyed this podcast. It speaks to my needs as a business owner. Thanks. Keep them coming. I really do appreciate when you guys leave that stuff, and it just is a nice pick-me-up for myself as well, because as I told you, I'm definitely thinking about what's next for the podcast, what's next for Rana, and all y'all who have been supporting me. I can't tell you enough how much it means. Like, it truly, truly means the world to me. As always, keep dreaming, keep driving, keep sharing this episode, pass it along to somebody if it touched you in some way. Please, please, please. We'll chat again in episode 229. Bye, guys.